Welcome to week 3, module 3 of our study of solitude. We're speaking this week on the science of solitude. Solitude is the creation of an open, empty space in our lives by purposely abstaining from interaction with other human beings so that freed from competing loyalties, we can be found by God. Through the unhealthy accumulation of auditory input and constant data flow, one researcher concluded this: noise kills. Excessive input does real damage. Information overload clogs our ability to function effectively. One study in the UK showed the effect noise has on people at work, maybe in a mill or a factory. We must understand the risk assessment for noise. Noise can lead to accidents by making it harder for workers to hear and correctly understand what others are saying, as well as the signals that others are giving to them. It masks the sound of approaching danger or warning. It distracts workers, such as drivers. It contributes to work-related stress that increases the cognitive load, increasing the likelihood of errors. These effects of noise can be applied to our spiritual lives as well. How noise affects workers' stress levels is very complex. For instance, the nature of the noise, including its volume, its tone, and predictability, are factors. Other people talking can be stressful when tasks require total concentration. The worker's occupation, and in my case, as a musician, guitar player, we can suffer work-related stresses as a result of concern over hearing loss. Noise levels that in some circumstances may be a contributor to stress, especially when that person is tired. Noise can certainly harm, and it can ultimately kill. For some people, being alone and quiet can be frightening. One scientist found that there are 3 kinds of seclusion. The first kind is aloneness, a state of having no one around, physical and communicative seclusion. The second is loneliness, an adverse condition, an emotionally painful state of feeling alone and isolated, feeling estranged even when not actually physically apart from others. And then third, solitude, which is a state of voluntary aloneness during which time personal development and creative activity may occur. And solitude as a positive is what we're talking about in this study. Freud linked solitude with anxiety, stating that with children, the first phobias connected to life experiences originate from darkness and solitude. Loneliness is indeed the most obvious risk of aloneness. The very idea of solitude may evoke deep childhood fears of abandonment and neglect and cause some people to rush toward connectedness. But to not believe that loneliness can be totally banished from life, nor that it should be. Like anxiety or guilt, it's part of the human condition. It tells us that we're not being understood and are perhaps too isolated from community and connection. Surprisingly, it can also tell us that we're not taking time to be in contact with our inner selves, to be alone. Psychology is only just beginning to distinguish aloneness from loneliness. Positive state of solitude, a constructive time spent apart from others for the purpose of self-examination, creativity, and exhortation, is a good thing. Here's one woman's testimony of the power of solitude. She said this: "My wake-up call came at a particularly busy time of my life when I rarely had a quiet moment and busied myself to the point of exhaustion. One day, while I was supposed to help a friend decorate for her daughter's wedding, I became dizzy and stayed that way for 3 months. Sometimes it was so debilitating that I couldn't read, watch TV, or hold a conversation. At times, I had to lie on my back without turning on either side, or my world would spin out of control. The only option left to me was to lie quietly and listen for God's voice, which turned out to be the best option of all. My experience was summed up in Psalm 62, 1 through 2. Quote, I wait quietly before the Lord, for my victory comes from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress, where I will never be shaken. After that experience, she says, I never wanted to live without that kind of stillness again. May we find rest in God and take moments every day to get quiet before him.